Hey folks, I'm Trisha.
And I'm Pete.
And today we are going to take a look at two less expensive versions of some very popular high-end phones. I've got the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G.
And I have the new iPhone SE. Both are popular brand names and offer some of the same features as their flagship premium phones, but all for a significantly lower price point.
Like less than half, thank God. In our Which One series, we typically compare a value product and a premium product to determine a winner, but today, we're going iPhone versus Android to see who is the ultimate champ of the mid-range market, at least for this generation.
We'll be pitting these two head to head in terms of design, performance, features, and price to help determine which one. See what I did there?
Yes, I did. Well done. We also took the two out on a little bit of a field trip to check real-world use for some of the most important features like camera quality, sound quality, battery life, etc. Do you know which you would choose at first glance? Let us know in the comments. I'm a team Android all the way, so I feel like I am biased, but I will set that aside for today.
Yeah, I'm biased too, just pro Apple. But totally neutral for the purposes of this video. Just a reminder, if you happen to make a purchase through any of our links, Slick Deals may receive a commission. And if you learn anything new from our videos, or if our devilish charm made you smile, laugh, or hypnotize you into purchasing one of these devices, please like and subscribe.
Let's talk build quality. The Samsung Galaxy A53 5G is pretty sturdy, with a Gorilla Glass front display and IP67 waterproof rating, and surprisingly high-end looking considering it's Samsung's mid-range offering. The A53 has a plastic back with a matte finish and a volume rocker and power button over to the side. There is a SIM card / micro SD slot, microphone and USB-C port and speaker grill down at the bottom, and another microphone just up here at the top. Now, while many Android diehards will rejoice at the expandable storage, don't get the party too carried away since Samsung's removed the headphone jack for this iteration. Although Samsung is offering free buds with the purchase of the phone from certain retailers right now. Check those links, yo.
Switching to the iPhone SE, Apple is notoriously mum about the kind of glass they use on their phones, with the exception of the recent ceramic shield or whatever it's called innovation. But you won't find that on the SE. The front and back are glassy glass, and they're framed with a rounded aluminum edge. The SE is also IP67 water resistant. It features a mute switch, individual volume buttons, and a side power button on the other side, a glass home button, and a SIM card tray. All the attributes of an iPhone 8 because it is almost exactly visually the same. A 4.7-inch screen with top and bottom bezels. I will say, despite the antiquated design and the glass back worrying me about drop protection, this device feels very premium and sturdy. But come on, it's a 4-year-old design and it sort of feels anachronistic at this point to use an iPhone with bezels this large.
Anachronistic could be charming, also #courage.
Yeah, no headphone jack here either. Samsung clearly went for a phone design that looks and feels similar to their latest gen flagships, so when we look at that next to the outdated design of the iPhone SE, I think this round goes to the A53.
Woohoo! All right, let's move on to performance. Samsung's Exynos 1280 is a 5nm system-on-chip processor with 6 GB of RAM, which for everyday tasks like watching videos, navigating UI, and web browsing is totally fine and provides a great experience. Gaming, on the other hand, leaves a bit to be desired. Now, while this new chip is a definite improvement over the A52 5G from 2021, it's not quite as snappy as the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 processor from Qualcomm. Gaming will feel a bit like it did on the last gen Snapdragon, and certain apps may take just a moment longer to load, and features like Face Unlock may be more sluggish than you would prefer. Where the Exynos 1280 shines, however, is in increased battery life thanks to the smaller chip size, and in its AI for camera performance, which we'll get into in just a bit.
As for the iPhone SE, Apple really stepped up their game on the internals of this device. It comes equipped with the latest A15 processor, which is the same found inside the iPhone 13, and that means, at least in terms of processing power, This phone is built to last and built to tackle some of the toughest processing challenges an iPhone could face. It also sports a 16-core neural engine and 4 GB of RAM. Sure, less RAM here than the A53, but with a smaller resolution display, it doesn't really need it. This is the magic of the iPhone SE. As others online have said, this thing is annoyingly good at gaming. Its performance is flagship level. Its Geekbench benchmarks are mere points off of the 13 Pro Max. If only you didn't have to deal with the tiny display, which is what makes the gaming experience on this device comparatively disappointing. As for battery life, Apple rates it 2 hours better than the previous iPhone SE, but it's not as good as its higher end brethren and not as good as the A53 either.
I think it's clear that Apple really prioritized performance here with the A15 Bionic processor, so let's give this round to the iPhone SE. All right, next up is features. I feel like this is where the Galaxy A53 really shines. In terms of display, the edge-to-edge 120Hz refresh rate, 2400 by 1080 resolution, 6.5-inch Super AMOLED display is stunning. Buttery smooth and very snappy with an integrated fingerprint scanner and hole punch selfie cam. Now note, this may be minor, but the fingerprint scanner is optical, not Samsung's super awesome ultrasonic sensor, so this may warrant a fingerprint unlock speed test. You down?
Let's go.
3, 2, 1. Game over.
Okay. In terms of other features for the Galaxy A53, it's 5G capable, as the full name suggests, has long battery life with fast charge capability thanks to its 5,000 milliamp battery, has louder and more clear speakers than before, and has expandable memory up to 1 terabyte via the micro SD card. But where the Galaxy A53 really pulled no punches is in its multi-lens camera system. Consisting of a 64 megapixel main camera with optical image stabilization, 12 megapixel ultra-wide, 5 megapixel macro, and a 5 megapixel depth sensor, as well as a 32 megapixel front-facing camera. While there's no telephoto lens on the A53, the AI zoom captures quite a bit of detail at close range, and the portrait mode is improved over the last gen.
I feel like this isn't gonna go well for me. The iPhone SE has a 1334 by 750 pixel True Tone LCD display, which sounds fancy, but it's not the latest or the greatest. Its refresh rate is 60 Hz. Sidebar, Trisha, did you know that you can change the refresh rate on the A53 to 60 Hz to save battery life?
It actually changes for you. You don't even have to do it based on what you're doing, if you can use the higher refresh rate or not to conserve battery.
Well, okay, you just schooled me there. I'm sorry, I will go back to my iPhone. Supposedly, it gives you an extra hour or so of battery life. The SE doesn't give you 120 Hz or the option to downscale refresh rate. It features a max brightness of 625 nits, which is not on par with the A53's 800 nits of brightness either. The SE uses Touch ID for security, which is built into the home button, and its battery is comparably smaller, about 2,000 milliamps and some change.
Whoa.
But overall battery life for both these phones is rated comparably. The iPhone's main camera is a 12 megapixel wide cam with an f1.8 aperture, essentially the same as the iPhone 11's main camera. It does allow portrait mode, which I personally consider superior to Samsung's portrait mode technology, but you will see no optical zoom here, only one lens on this camera phone. You know, just on paper here, it's pretty clear that the A53 wins on features.
I don't know about that. I mean, yeah.
Between the high-end display and the multitude of camera options, Samsung is pretty much giving Apple a big ol' "you're done" in the budget phone range.
Okay, but megapixels, or as our friend JC Juan Carlos Bagnell likes to say, megapixels don't matter. Let's see how those features actually translate to real-world use.
With a field trip.
Yes!
We took both phones out to test image quality, sound quality, screen brightness and visibility, front camera and microphone.
So this is and Talk selfie video in full HD 30 frames per second with optical image stabilization on.
This is a test of the selfie cam video and sound quality. The max resolution that this will shoot, the iPhone SE, is 1080p at 30 frames per second.
Now, if I wanted to record in 4K, I would have to lock this baby in a tripod because it's not doing OIS in 4K. But it can do 4K on the selfie cam. Good to know.
If you want to go to 4K 60p, which is the highest resolution you can shoot in video, you're gonna have to switch your phone around. And battery life. We're just taking a look at the battery life after we finished our field trip and real world use test, and the Samsung has 87%, while the iPhone has 79%.
While both phones did pretty well in a lot of our testing, and the color accuracy and saturation levels in the photos will come down to personal preference,
My photo of that soda can was gorgeous.
I think the Samsung A53 takes it on the features due to the display and camera quality. Now let's talk about price. In terms of price, the A53 5G only comes in one configuration: 128 gigabytes of internal storage with 6 gigabytes of RAM for $449 MSRP here in the US. Keep in mind, the expandable storage via micro SD goes up to 1 terabyte, so that's there should you need more than what ships on board.
The iPhone SE, by comparison, comes in 3 different configurations: $429 for the 64 gigabyte version, $479 for the 128 gigabyte version, and $579 for the 256 gigabyte version. While there is a cheaper way to buy into the iPhone SE at $429, when similarly spec'd, the iPhone comes in $30 more expensive than the A53.
Oh, well, that's a tough call, but I would give that round to the A53 as well.
Yeah. If you're going for the absolute cheapest, technically the iPhone wins, but it comes with half the storage and no expandability, if that's a word.
So Pete, after taking a look at just about everything under the sun, comparing all of the features of both of these devices, which one?
It pains me to say this, but the Samsung A53 5G is going to be a better device for any neutral shopper. Even for those folks who are already in the Apple ecosystem, the iPhone SE is just not the best user experience. Apple has spent what, like 3 or 4 years now building iOS around the swipe up feature, around Face ID to unlock, and around larger screens. And while it's pretty awesome that the SE has one of the most powerful Apple chips in it right now, I don't really think the average shopper cares about that.
I mean, for me, honestly, this is a tough call. If someone is looking for the most affordable way to get in on Apple features like iMessage or is already part of the Apple ecosystem, then the iPhone SE presents a really nice value option, especially with that chip in it. It's really a question of what Apple and Samsung truly think matters in a phone, right? So Apple set out to create a budget iPhone with the most performance power possible.
And Samsung set out to bring premium features like high-end display and camera features to a more affordable phone. Ultimately, the decision comes down to what matters most to you as a consumer, but I know for a fact that most people aren't digging into the minutia of performance differences between the 12 and the A15 Bionic, just as they aren't going to be getting into the weeds of the differences between the Exynos 1280 versus its 2200 or the Qualcomm counterparts.
And of course, as neutral as we've been trying to be in this video, it would be silly to assume that operating system and user interface preference is not going to play into the purchase decision. You may love or hate Samsung's UI or iOS, and that is a big part of your phone user experience.
But for the random individual who is completely neutral to both Android and iOS, if such a unicorn truly exists, you're going to want to go with the Samsung A53. So knowing a little bit more about each, which of these would you buy now? Has your opinion changed at all?
Good luck! And whatever phone you settle on, I hope it works for you. Happy shopping, everyone.